You've been waiting for a long time, waiting for something, anything to finally change. You have prayed with a faith that felt like it could move mountains, only to find yourself still standing at the foot of the very same one. Each sunrise brings a familiar ache, a quiet question that settles deep within your soul. How much longer? You have held on, you have believed, you have spoken words of hope into the silence that surrounds you. But the silence has grown louder lately, and the weight of the waiting has become a heavy cloak on your shoulders, making each step forward feel impossible. The world keeps moving, but you feel stuck in a single unchanging scene. The promises you once held so tightly feel like they are slipping through your fingers, like fine grains of sand you can't quite grasp. You look back at the journey, at all the tears you've cried and the battles you've fought in the quiet of your own heart, and a weariness washes over you. You start to wonder if you heard wrong. Maybe you misunderstood the signs. Maybe this is just how things are going to be. The fire of your hope, once a blazing inferno, has dwindled to a fragile ember, threatened by the cold winds of doubt and discouragement. It's a lonely place to be, this space between the promise and its fulfillment. And now you're starting to lose hope. It's not something you wanted to do, but it's happening. The strength you used to draw upon feels depleted, the well of your endurance running dry. You see others receiving their breakthroughs, their answered prayers, and you celebrate with them, but a small, honest part of you whispers, "What about me?" Giving up seems less like a choice and more like an inevitability, a slow surrender to the relentless reality of your circumstances. You're tired. You're so incredibly tired of holding on to a thread that seems ready to snap at any moment. Your spirit feels bruised, your heart heavy with the burden of unfulfilled longing. But what if? What if the silence isn't a sign of absence, but of preparation? What if the long, arduous wait has been forging something in you that you couldn't have gained any other way? What if the darkest hour is not a sign that the end is near, but a signal that the dawn is about to break? Just because nothing has changed on the surface doesn't mean that powerful unseen forces aren't moving on your behalf. What if right now, in this very moment of exhaustion and near surrender, you are closer to your breakthrough than you have ever been before? What if you're closer than you think? It feels like walking through thick mud. Every step is heavy, and the scenery never changes. Days blur into years, and hope fades as you wait for something to shift. The weight of waiting is a silent burden, and just getting out of bed feels like a victory. You remember praying with passion, your heart laid bare, believing every word was heard. But silence stretched on, turning hope into doubt and prayers into routine. Now you feel stranded, your spirit eroded, simply surviving the weight of unanswered prayers. There was a time when hope was a vibrant living thing, a light within you that could not be extinguished. But disappointment wears it down, and now your hope flickers, battered by reality, threatening to go out. You guard this fragile flame, feeling profoundly alone, unsure if you have the strength to keep believing. Joseph, the favored son, wore a coat of many colors, a symbol of love and destiny, but his brothers' envy turned to betrayal. They stripped him of his coat and threw him into a pit, selling him into slavery. The dreams that once shone bright faded into darkness as Joseph's journey of struggle began. Joseph arrived in Egypt stripped of his freedom and name. Sold as a slave, he chose integrity over despair, working faithfully for Potiphar. But when falsely accused, Joseph was thrown into prison, betrayed, slandered, yet still holding to his faith. Joseph was thrown into Pharaoh's prison, a place of forgotten souls. Yet even in chains he served faithfully, earning the warden's trust. When two officials arrived, Joseph noticed their sadness and listened to their dreams. With God's help, he interpreted them. One would die, the other restored. Joseph pleaded, "Remember me." His hope for freedom was reborn. Joseph waited in silence, forgotten in his cell. Days turned to years, hope faded, and the world moved on. Yet in the darkness, faith was forged. God often works in the silence, in the waiting just before the dawn. In the dead of night, Pharaoh dreamed disturbing dreams. 7 fat cows devoured by 7 gaunt ones, 7 healthy heads of grain swallowed by scorched ones. None could interpret them until the cupbearer remembered Joseph, the forgotten prisoner with a gift for dreams. Joseph's name was spoken, and a door long shut was about to open. Joseph was suddenly summoned from his dungeon cell. No warning, just urgency. He was cleaned, dressed, and brought before Pharaoh. In moments, he went from prisoner to standing in the throne room, ready for destiny. Joseph humbly credited God, interpreting Pharaoh's dreams and changing the course of a nation. Joseph didn't just interpret Pharaoh's dream, he boldly offered a solution. He proposed a plan: appoint a wise leader, collect 1/5 of Egypt's harvest during abundance, and store it for the coming famine. Pharaoh and his officials were stunned by Joseph's wisdom. Recognizing the divine in Joseph, Pharaoh asked, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" Instantly, Joseph was elevated from prisoner to prime minister, second only to Pharaoh. Pharaoh gave Joseph his signet ring, royal robes, and a gold chain. The slaves' chains were replaced by symbols of authority. Joseph rode in Pharaoh's chariot with crowds bowing before him. In a single day, Joseph's life was transformed beyond recognition. God's answer wasn't just deliverance, it was destiny fulfilled. Standing in the palace, Joseph saw his years of suffering as preparation, not punishment. Every betrayal and setback had positioned him for this moment. The delays weren't denials, they were divine timing. In Potiphar's house and prison, Joseph learned leadership, management, and humility. The waiting shaped him into a man who could handle power without pride. Breakthrough came suddenly, but the foundation was built in secret. God often works in hidden places, preparing us for blessings we can't yet see. What looked like random misfortune was actually a perfectly orchestrated plan. Joseph's pain and patience became the path to saving many lives. The waiting was never wasted, it was the groundwork for a miracle. Just because you see no change doesn't mean nothing is happening. God builds foundations in silence deep beneath the surface. Like a skyscraper's unseen base, your struggles are shaping your strength. Joseph's years in obscurity were filled with lessons in leadership and faith. God was preparing Joseph for greatness long before anyone saw it. The silence wasn't absence, it was the careful work of a master craftsman. Your frustration and waiting are tools for deeper growth. God is forging patience, resilience, and compassion in you. The breakthrough you seek requires a stronger you, and that's being built now. Trust the hidden work. It's the foundation for your future. Silence isn't God's absence, it's often His focus. The enemy wants you to mistake quiet for abandonment, but God is working behind the scenes. Think of the silence before resurrection or before the Messiah's arrival. In stillness, God orchestrates the most powerful moves. True faith is trusting God's character when you see nothing. If you're in a silent season, don't lose hope. This could be the final phase before your breakthrough. God hasn't forgotten you. He's preparing something greater. The silence is sacred space for unseen miracles. Hold on. Reward is coming for those who trust in the quiet. If you feel like giving up, remember how far you've come. You've survived every worst day and grown stronger through adversity. The journey has changed you, built resilience, faith, and depth. Each small act of endurance was a victory. You're not the same person who began this trial. The progress may be invisible, but it's real. Don't let exhaustion erase your history of perseverance. This is just a hard chapter, not the end of your story. You're closer to breakthrough than you think. You have more strength within you than you realize. Everything can change in a moment. Joseph went from prison to power in a single day. His breakthrough came suddenly, unexpectedly. Your story can have a suddenly moment too. You are always just one moment away from a different life. Hold on, your breakthrough is closer than you think. When your heart is fragile and hope feels lost, hold on. Trust the process, even when it's painful. Believe again. Let color and light return. Guard your heart, forgive, and keep it soft. This is the invitation to trust again and let hope grow even in the waiting. The story of Joseph and countless others like it teaches us a powerful lesson. God is a God of the suddenly. He is the God who can turn a barren womb into the mother of nations, a shepherd boy into a king, and a forgotten prisoner into a prime minister overnight. Your breakthrough will likely not come in the way you expect it. It will not follow your timeline or conform to your logical plans. You may be looking for a door to open on your left while God is preparing to blow a hole in the wall on your right. You may be praying for a small stream of provision while He is positioning you for a flood of abundance. Stop trying to predict how He will move. Just trust that He will. Your story is not over. This chapter of waiting and struggle feels long, but it is not the final chapter. There are pages yet to be turned, adventures yet to be had, and joys yet to be experienced that you cannot even imagine from your current vantage point. The author of your faith is also the finisher of your faith, and He does not leave stories unfinished. He does not abandon His projects halfway through. The same God who wrote the promises into the beginning of your story is already preparing the triumphant conclusion. Your current pain is real, but it is temporary. It is a plot point, not the theme of your entire life. There is more to come, so much more. So lift up your head. Let a flicker of hope ignite in your heart once more. The night has been long, but the dawn is coming. The silence has been deafening, but the King is about to speak your name. The chains have been heavy, but they are about to fall to the floor. Do not be defined by the weight. Begin to prepare yourself for the fulfillment. Start to dream again. Start to thank Him in advance for what He is about to do. Shift your posture from one of weary resignation to one of watchful expectation. The atmosphere is changing. The spiritual climate is shifting. Something is moving in the unseen realm on your behalf right now. Remember this one thing as you go from this moment. It is the truth that can carry you through this final stretch of the journey. It is the promise that turns darkness into a prelude for light. Everything you are going through, everything you have been waiting for, every prayer you have prayed, every tear you have cried, it can all be redeemed and transformed in the blink of an eye. The God of Joseph is your God too, and He is still in the business of breathtaking reversals and glorious surprises. Hold on, because everything can change in a moment you didn't expect, because grace still speaks.